All right. So a couple of weeks ago, I was catching up with some of my friends from college over Zoom. And one of my friends started telling us about this crazy situation that was going down at her job. Now, my friend is black, and that's relevant because her job is going through these racial sensitivity training sessions. And she is one of the only black members on her staff, if not the only one. So it just kind of puts her in a weird position. But anyway, long story short, there's this presentation that takes place. And let's just say that it's pretty inappropriate. And so my friend is telling us about this presentation and how it made her feel and how it was just a nightmare situation to be a part of. And while she's telling this story, our other friend who's listening is just full of support. I mean, just best friend status. Like, oh my goodness, like, I can't believe that you had to go through this. Like, what do you need? Do you need tips? Like, how can we rectify the situation, etc. She's just the perfect friend. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there listening to this story, just completely stone-faced, dead silent. And quite frankly, I would have been happy if she finished the story and we just moved on and I never had to give my input. But of course, that's not how it works. So my friend eventually asks for my thoughts. And immediately I felt very awkward because the reason I wasn't sharing my thoughts was because I was trying to picture the situation from the other side. And as I've talked about before in my videos, I'm not very socially adept anymore. So I don't really have the skill or the tact to navigate this type of conversation and present what my actual thoughts are without outright declaring that I was like basically seeing things from the other side and not 100% just taking my friend's side. And so I let it out. I told her how, yeah, this was a ridiculous thing that she had to go through. But at the same time, there are so many things that I'm ignorant about. And if I tried to rectify it by holding some type of seminar and I misstepped, I would hope that the person that I hurt could see that I really meant no harm and I actually meant the complete opposite. And that I was really trying to do what I thought was right in order to help the situation. And I was just focusing on how her job was trying to do that, specifically the person that presented. And so I laid all that out. And my friend was amazing. Basically, she looked at the situation and was like, yeah, I mean, maybe I'm not being empathetic. Maybe I need to be a little more understanding of where they were coming from. And basically, even though she was the one that was deeply emotionally affected by this situation because she's actually the one that went through it, she was still trying to step outside of that and look at things as a whole and see that, this maybe wasn't a malicious thing. Even though it made her feel uncomfortable and isolated, that potentially that wasn't the intent and therefore that has to be acknowledged. And I just remember thinking in that moment that, like, wow, I really do have some good friends. Because for a lot of people, that's grounds for friendship termination. Like, how are you gonna take the job side in this situation? How are you not just gonna support me here as I'm laying out all of my emotional trauma? But my friend didn't do any of that. She stepped back, looked at the situation, acknowledged how I saw things, and then proceeded. And yeah, I just feel like that's something that I aspire towards as well, that I'm not even capable of doing myself all the time. But here's my friend dealing with it in a professional setting, which adds so much more stress and tension to the situation. And yet here she is still doing that, still being very open-minded and present and empathetic to the people that made her feel uncomfortable. And so when we were done talking, we signed off, and I just kind of sat there for a while and just really had to be thankful for having that type of friend. Because yeah, she could absolutely have just been like, wow, you're disloyal, you never take my side, and could have terminated our friendship over something like that. And it wouldn't be the first time that something like that has happened, not just to me, but I'm sure to everyone else. And for me, it kind of just sparked this train of thought around what does it actually mean to be a friend? And friendship in general is a concept that I've been juggling around in my head for a while now, because at least for me, I just feel like the definition doesn't go far enough. Like if you look up the word friend in Webster's dictionary, you'll see 3 results. The first is a person who you like and enjoy being with. The second is a person who helps or supports someone or something, such as a cause or charity. And the third is whatever this means. I followed the link and it did not help. But anyway, those 2 definitions I think absolutely encompass aspects of friendship, but don't actually hit at the root or the heart of what friendship is. At least for me. I think a friend to me absolutely has to be someone that I like or enjoy being with, and somebody that supports me in whatever way is meaningful at that time. But at least for me, I've had relationships where one or both of those things were true for people who I wouldn't really consider a friend. I mean, I've met people at jobs that I like being around, but I wouldn't really consider a friend because outside of the job, we have nothing in common and spend no time together. And obviously there have been people that have supported or helped me, but only because they stand to gain from whatever endeavor I'm undertaking at the time. And so both of those definitions can be attributed to people who have these traits, but who aren't my friends. And so for me anyway, these definitions don't really go far enough. And so I spent a lot of time thinking about, well, what does it actually mean to be a friend? What is a definition that I can give to this word that once I give this definition, it absolutely describes what a friend is? Again, at least for me. I'm not going to try and tell everybody what a friend is. That's not the point of this video. I'm just trying to define what a friend is to me. And so my definition of a friend is a person who knows me and the type of person that I want to be, and who holds me accountable if and when I step out of line and do anything untrue to the person that I am or the person that I aim to be. Now, I do still think that the first Webster's definition of what a friend is kind of like a prerequisite to meeting this type of person. Like, they have to be someone that in some way I like or enjoy being around. But again, like I said, I can like or enjoy being around somebody without really considering them as a friend. And I think we all have those relationships. But I think this definition, at least for me, defines the type of person that I can't not call a friend. But anyway, I kind of want to break down what I mean by this definition and what I mean by accountability. So when you meet someone new, through continuous interaction, you start to find out who that person is. And not just who they are, but the things that they value and the type of person that they see themselves as and who they want to be. And this isn't always an overt process. Like, I wouldn't walk up to someone and say, "Hi, my name is Fif Badaki. I like soccer, basketball, and something that I place a lot of value in is having principles and having the self-awareness to admit to yourself when you fail to live up to your principles." Like, I would never introduce myself to someone like that. But hopefully, as I hang out with somebody over a period of time, they'll start to recognize those things about me. And they will call me out whenever I fail to live up to those things that I've shown that I place value in. And that's what I mean by accountability. And this isn't the type of accountability that you would get from a teacher or a boss or a parent or any authority figure. I mean, it can be, but probably more often than not, since this person is your friend, they're not going to sit you down and give you a stern talking to. No, it can happen in so many different ways. I know that one of the reasons I used to hang out with the people that I hung around with was because they were really funny. And sure, I couldn't articulate this at the time, but whenever I would step out of line or do something that was not really in my character, they would roast me. And again, this isn't something that I can say I was conscious of at the time, but now that I look back on some of those interactions that I had with my friends, I feel like I'm starting to see a pattern where there was just some friendly ribbing whenever one of us would do something out of character. This is a very small / inconsequential example of this, but I remember a couple of years ago I was playing basketball with some of my friends, and again, I've talked about this in some of my other videos, but this was a time where my awkwardness was at peak levels. I mean, I'm still awkward to this day, but back then it was just uncomfortable to be around me. But anyway, we were playing 5-on-5 at the gym, and one of the other guys on the other team was just giving us work. All right, this guy was torching us. Anyway, the game ended and we're all hanging around after talking about the game. And I remember I was describing one of this guy's moves. Basically, he had this hesitation move that we all kept falling for. And so I was trying to describe it to my friends. But instead of saying hesitation move like I just said very naturally, I said, "Yo, this guy had such a sick hezi." And all my friends just looked at me and just started dying. And I was like, "What? That's a legitimate word." And they're like, "Yeah, but why did you say it like that? You sound ridiculous." And they know that that's not how I talk. And I know that I got that from somewhere else. And so they all just kindly roasted me for sounding like a complete tool. And that's not to say that hezi is a word that only tools use. Absolutely not. It's just something that I don't really say. So when I did say it, my friends were like, "Why would you say it like that? You sound like you're trying to be something or be cool instead of just being you." And yeah, so they didn't just sit me down and give me some stern talking to. They just roasted me, and I knew never to do that again. And again, this isn't like a great example, but it does highlight how my friends kind of hold me accountable whenever I do something out of character or out of line. And me saying, "Yo, this dude had a sick hezi," is definitely out of line. But on the other side of things, one of my friends that I was playing basketball with that day, a couple of months ago, I was at his house and we were just hanging out. And I remember we got into this deep discussion around politics. And I remember I probably got to his house sometime in the afternoon, and I left that night around 3 a.m. because we were just going in on this conversation. And basically, I took a stance that I very strongly believed in, and he just kept fact checking me. But I was so emotionally caught up in the conversation that I just kept going even though I was incorrect. And even though for the most part, he agrees with me politically in terms of how we want things to go and like what we want to see, he would not let me use the facts that I was bringing out to prove my point. And that was really frustrating me because I was thinking, dude, we're on the same side. But I left that night extremely angry. I was thinking about the conversation the entire 40-minute ride home, and I woke up the next morning feeling even worse. And I realized that the reason I felt really bad about it was because I was using incorrect information to try to prove this point that I do believe in, but that this information wasn't really supporting. And then I knew that I had to go to my friend and basically admit that I was wrong. And obviously, you never want to do that. That's something that is never fun, no matter who you have to admit you're wrong to. But I knew I had to do it. And so the next time we were hanging out, I told him how I was wrong to try to use all that information. And he was very cool about it. I mean, he just accepted it and told me that, yeah, dude, you're an idiot. Obviously, he was kind about it, but, you know, obviously we're going to joke about it. And we've had conversations in the past about how it's so frustrating when people can't admit that they're wrong. And here I was doing just that. And so he knew that this was something that I placed a lot of value in. And he was watching me basically go against my own values, which I can't imagine must have been so frustrating for him. And so when we were talking, he held me accountable to that and told me straight up that if this is something that you place a lot of value in, this is something that you have to learn to do yourself. I mean, he didn't say it just like that, but that was the message. And so basically I give those two examples to show that, yeah, holding people accountable doesn't always mean this very stern talking to, but it can also mean just joking around or kindly roasting someone for doing something out of line or out of character. And so, yeah, in my life, I would say that I've been fortunate enough that friendship hasn't meant blind loyalty or blind support for someone or just liking being around someone. I feel like even though we weren't really conscious of it and couldn't even articulate it, there has always been this sense of, you know, holding people accountable. And basically ever since I've been in middle school, people have always told me that I've been really lucky with my friends. And I never liked it when people told me that because I always wanted to be like, no, I pick the people that I'm friends with, so maybe I'm just really good at picking. I wanted to take some responsibility for the amazing friends that I've had over the years. But the reality is that they're right. I have been really lucky with my friends. And I didn't really realize this until we all came back from college after our first year. And I remember talking to one of my close friends who was the man in high school. He played sports, everybody loved him, he was a kind dude, even the teachers liked him. And I remember talking about how I had found a really good group of friends in college, and he was telling me how he really didn't have any friends. And in my mind, I was like, how is that even possible? Again, throughout high school, he was one of the most well-liked people, and it just seemed impossible to me that somebody like him could not have any friends. And it just turned out that some of the people that he placed a lot of trust in betrayed him and went behind his back and did some really grimy things. And they were all in a friend group. And so basically they split apart, and that friend group stayed together and he was left by himself. And it was crazy to me because we were friends and we had a lot of things in common. So obviously there are differences between us, but in terms of the type of people that we like and interact with, there were a lot of similarities. And so him saying that he didn't have any friends because the people that he chose to put trust in betrayed him, it really hit close to home because it made me realize that, wow, I would have probably put the same trust in those people as well. And I'm just lucky that the people that I've put trust in didn't turn around and abuse that. And so I had to admit that, yeah, I've really been lucky with my friends. And that's also part of the reason I wanted to make this video, because I wanted to try to figure out and identify what it is about my friends and the people I've chosen to interact with that draws me to them. Because if I didn't, I feel like I would be taking this whole lucky with friends thing for granted. Hopefully by identifying these traits or these aspects of our friendship, I can go forward consciously and try to find these things in other people so that I know that I can place trust in them and call them my friend. But if I just kept going with this whole, oh, well, I've just been lucky with my friends mentality, then I feel like I would be taking this whole thing for granted. But yeah, anyway, I think that's probably going to be it for this one. Again, these are my definitions for what I believe a friend is. I don't want to push this definition on anybody else. But also, if it resonates a little bit with you, maybe look into it a little bit more. You know, try to analyze your own friendships and see what it really is about the people that you like and interact with that draws you to each other. And hopefully you'll find your own definition. But yeah, in any case, I have been really lucky with my friends. And even though I took that 10-year hiatus from interacting with human beings, I have had some people who stuck with me through that time. And I feel like I can confidently say that all of those people share this trait. And it's something that I hope to learn from them. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. In any case, if you made it this far, thank you for indulging me. I really appreciate you watching. I've had to take certain measures outside of this whole video creation thing that will affect my ability to put out videos. So just putting it out there, there may be a decrease in the amount of videos that I put out. But this is still the thing that I want to do professionally at some point, hopefully if I can keep improving. So I will still try to meet certain quotas for myself. But until I figure out how things are going to look over the next couple of weeks / months, I can't really say what that quota will be just yet. But just know some things are changing. But regardless of that, I'm still going to try to be putting out videos consistently. But anyway, with that said, I wish you all the very best going forward. Take care of yourself. try to identify what friendship means to you so you know who you can and can't place your trust in. And I will see you in the next one. Peace.